Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Justin Porter, State Director for Special Education. Welcome to the TEA LEA SPED Director webinar this week. I have a few folks joining on. It's really pretty light attendance today. And we actually have a pretty light agenda, so we should be pretty quick. As is our usual practice, we're recording the webinar, and in the next day or two, the YouTube link to the webinar will be posted to the TEA website in the same place where you found the link for today. So that's the recent and upcoming webinars page that's linked from the special education website. You can also access those through our YouTube channel. We do have folks stumble across them sometimes that way and can see them there. The link is the same. So we're going to jump right in. I think, make sure that I don't have yeah, I think that's it. Ed is not here today, so it's just me and all the mayhem that might ensue technologically speaking because of that. But we'll muddle through it. The agenda is posted to the website in the same place where you access the link. If it wasn't there when you checked it before, we continuously are sticking things up there. There's also another document that I'm going to talk about here in a minute. That will be, if it's not posted there now, it will be soon because it's in the review process and approval process. But I don't think it's up yet. Hang on, sorry. All righty. A couple of announcements. Just a reminder, this is the same as it was last week, that the high cost fund application window closes on the 15th of May. So that's Saturday. So if you're interested in that, please make sure that you have your application put in by that date. Another reminder that tomorrow the assurances are due in the legal framework for regarding the distribution of the Notice of Procedural Safeguards and Parents Guide to the ARD. Those need to have been distributed in whichever way you saw fit and most appropriate for your LEA by that date. We had a little bit of snafu with some of the printing and distributing of those hard copies. Region 4 helped us out with that to make sure that to try to relieve as much of the burden from y'all as possible with regard to cost of printing materials. And so if you were going to use hard copies, you should have gotten those from Region 4 and have been able to distribute them. But that assurance is due tomorrow at the close of business, which for me, in my world, the close of business is midnight. So at some point tomorrow, make sure that you have that assurance put in there. Jennifer Alexander in Review and Support asked me to remind everyone that the special education self-assessment is due on June 1st. That is also a little bit of an extended deadline, but just know the special self-assessment is due on the 1st of June. There's one thing that's not listed here because the reminder came in after the accessible PDF was already posted for the agenda, but we did talk about this at our last webinar, just reminding folks that the SSES rosters have been updated and posted in Ascend, and so they should have all been posted a week ago, new updated ones, but just a reminder that they're there in case you are interested in updating your roster. So moving right along, as I said, I promise this is going to be quick today. Review and updates, I think that pretty much covers it in the announcements section. I don't think there's anything extra in here that I haven't heard about or that I haven't mentioned already. One thing we did want to highlight for y'all, we've been talking about this for quite some time related to the Amplio Speech Dyslexia platform that we were trying to pull together a grant to have a centralized hub for training for that. We've heard from lots of LEAs that they're super interested in it, but they don't have staff currently trained to deliver the MTA dyslexia curriculum. And so, and that was, we had lots of training opportunities, but it was sort of disparate and you had to sort of contact individual entities to make that happen. As of right now, we are, and this document is in the works for being posted right now. It should be up on that, on the webinar page any second now. It's actually been approved and it's working its way through the process, but you don't really need this document. It's just sort of a reminder, or not, it's just us putting in writing that we actually that we have this happening. The one piece of information that's new here is that Region 4 is the organization that's working on that for us, pulling those trainers together. They're going to, by the end of this month, first part of June, launch a web page with training registration. We are targeting early to mid-June for those first dates. Obviously, they have to get contracts in place with the training providers in order to make that happen. So that's why we can't tell you dates right now, but you should plan for or that early to mid-June time frame for that MTA and Esperanza training to be available in that localized hub. The trainings will be held virtually, so there's not any travel to plan for. As we go on with this project, there may be at some point some face-to-face opportunities, but initially at least, these trainings are all going to be provided virtually. And so we're working hard with Region 4 to get that scheduled together and up as soon as possible, because we don't want to lose too much of the summer. If some folks could be getting trained and some kids could be getting some services over the summer, if that's appropriate for them, or if that's what y'all have decided you want to do. We're going to share this information also through with our dyslexia contacts across the state so that they can pass it out, amongst other folks, just to know that something's happening. It just sometimes, I know Porter saying something in a webinar over and over again doesn't carry as much weight as having something in writing that it's actually happening. We wish we had, like I said, we wish we had the landing page ready to go. It will be very soon, but just know that we're working very diligently with our partners at Region 4 to make that happen. It is free of cost to districts who are participating in the Amplio speech platform. And so if you have registered for that and you have folks that need the training, you might want to send them this information because it has a couple of links here and an email address down here at the bottom, I think. Yeah. Down here at the bottom, so that a place to just sort of send inquiries at Region 4 and that sort of information. But like I said, we will have it available. The website with more information will be up on June 1st, and we'll make sure and get that information out. As soon as it is, we'll make sure and get that information out widely across the state. So Sharon in the Q&A section asked, where will this document be available? Sharon, this will be put into the same place where the agenda was. So on the recent and upcoming TEA webinars, in that table that's there, if it's not there already, it will be probably by the time I'm done talking, because it's already been submitted. So it'll be linked from there. And I can't put a link in the Q&A because I can't link it until it's already on the website. So once it's on the website, we probably don't need the link. But that's all I had about that. Just know it's just a coming soon, a little teaser, but just we know that the training is a barrier for participation for a lot of LEAs, and trying to figure out how and when to get people trained has been a bit of a challenge. And so in response to that need, we are working, like I said, with Region 4 to provide that centralized hub for training there. So seeing folks, please put your questions into the Q&A. That's easier for us to monitor than the chat feature is. There's a question here of how do we register for Amplio? Actually, Michelle is on the call. Michelle, could you drop that into chat? That link, the Amplio link for folks to the Amplio website.
Doing it right now.
Thank you. Awesome. All right. And so that's all I have to say about that. More information will come, like I said, as soon as that website gets up and running. It will be launched. You'll note that it says by June 1 here. We're pushing to get this stuff up as soon as possible. We know that y'all need this information, and it's not helpful if it comes too late. So we're working on it, and we'll get you all that information as soon as it comes up. So is the Stacy Perkins asked in the Q&A, is there a deadline for LEAs to be registered with Amplio in order to take advantage of the MTA training? There is not. We encourage you, to register as soon as possible and to get kids in, because, one of the reasons why we think we're not seeing huge adoption rates right now is because it's the end of the school year and they have something in place, and changing towards the end of the year is not something people are usually keen to do for lots of good reasons. But going into next school year, like if you're going to jump on board with this, that's probably the timing that most people would prefer, and we understand that completely. So there is not a deadline. This is going to be an ongoing project through the life of the Amplio project. There will be opportunities for training on an ongoing basis there, so that folks will, if you aren't on board yet, if you're on board later in the fall or whatever, there will be opportunities there. So that's Stacy. That's sort of the same thing. Your next question: will there be multiple training opportunities? There will be. This is not just a one-shot deal. We're gonna Region 4 is standing up a schedule. We're focusing right now on making sure we can get the dates in June solidified, because that's obviously the greatest need. But it will be ongoing. We're going to keep it going after that. And it's not just MTA; it's also Esperanza. We know that across the state, there's probably maybe not quite as big of a need for Esperanza, because lots of people are already trained in Esperanza. That product has a very large footprint across the state. It's a very high quality project. Lots of good reasons for why it would have that footprint, and so we're excited about that. But we're also, through the same project with Region 4, there will also be Esperanza training available if you have folks who need that. Clear these out. And back to the agenda. Last but not least, Deanna Clemens, my friend and colleague here in the Special Education Programs Department, has a few updates for us on compensatory services. So I'm going to go ahead and stop share, Deanna, and then you can take over. I think you might have said you had a document you wanted to share. You're muted.
Good, because I was talking to myself anyway. So. Let me just share my screen here. I'm just going to show you guys. So I have a message that says host disabled participant screen sharing. So.
Well, that's not true. If he did, he didn't know. There we go. There we go. Changed it.
What I wanted to show you guys, this is actually not any kind of new information about ESY or compensatory services. But I just put together this document to pull together all the different places that we have resources existing around ESY and compensatory services. So are y'all seeing my screen now with the document that says compensatory services in the school year? Yes, okay, good, thank you. So again, it's not new. We just heard from several different folks at ESCs or LEAs that there was a lot of things around COVID that were, in many different places. It was a little bit challenging to find. So I just put this document together to pull all of the links into one page. And so we did compensatory and ESY together just because we have some documents that cover both topics. Of course, they're two different things, but the conversation oftentimes dovetails. So we have a couple documents that cover both topics, like this first one is ESY compensatory services. That came out in May of 2020, but it's still applicable. So we have several different resources here. There's even a couple YouTube videos that were done with a slide deck. We have a couple FAQs where I called out which questions touch on either one of these topics. And then I just put as a related resource some of the information we have about progress monitoring, because of course the progress monitoring data is critical when you're making decisions around ESY or compensatory services. So we just gotten some feedback that where are the compensatory and ESY things? Are they still relevant, what we put out in 2020? And so put it together on one document. And then I believe, Justin, will we be able to put this document also on the webinar page, which already is linked in chat, where that will land?
Yes, ma'am. We'll get that done this afternoon.
Okay. So that's it for that. Again, it's not any new resources, just a compilation of what's existing.
And just to sort of put a pin in, not put a pin in, put some an exclamation point to what Deanna shared here. We are hearing some anecdotal stories about folks kind of putting off discussions around compensatory services for kids, and I just want to tell everybody this is not the time to do that. You should be doing that sooner rather than later. I would have hoped that you actually would have already started that process for kids who missed out on some services due to school closures. So if that didn't happen, please make sure that you're doing that as part of your annual ARD cycle as you're coming up, making sure that you have addressed any lack of progress due to COVID. But like I said, like Deanna said, we'll make sure and get that posted for that guidance. Like she said, it's nothing new, but it's just all in one place, because during the mayhem that was this year or last year at this time, stuff is all out there, but it's sometimes a little bit difficult to search through it all and sift through it all and find it. So we'll make sure that gets posted today. Anything else to add, Deanna?
You know what, there was something I forgot to mention. One of the things that we heard, I imagine this is pretty isolated, but we did hear a report from at least one LEA that they were not discussing ESY this year because this year was this year. And just as a reminder that we are required to discuss ESY for all students receiving special education annually. So again, I assume that that was a pretty isolated incident, but just to say that out loud, that ESY is still required to be discussed annually for all students receiving special education services, regardless of the pandemic or COVID-19, like every year.
Yep, thanks for that. So I don't see any other questions in either chat or in the Q&A. So without further ado, I think we'll just drop off. We had pretty low participation today, so we probably are going to be considering when we put a pause on this for the summer here pretty soon. But just keep posted. As it stands now, we do plan to have one more LEA webinar at least in 2 weeks, and then we'll talk about plans for the summer. And again, this recording will be posted hopefully in the next 48 hours. Thanks very much.